各位同学好，这里是哈铁馆。现在我在我自己的影棚这边录一期访谈，然后呢，我计划把这个访谈做成一个系列。今天坐在我身边这一位就是第一位到我影棚这边录制访谈节目的嘉宾。Can you make a short introduce?
My name is Nik Kosmas. I'm American. I've been living in Shanghai for around 5 years, and I am an artist.
Have you ever done a job that is normal?
I always wanted to be an artist, and my mom was also kind of a painter, and my dad was kind of a creative person, but they ended up in advertising because they needed to pay the bills.
Yeah.
I haven't really done that many other jobs besides art. There was a period when I worked in a gym as a personal trainer when I had like kind of a crisis, and I sort of stopped making art for a couple years.
Which part do you earn more?
Definitely as an artist, but it's not always stable. I mean, a trainer, you work for an hour, you receive 1 hour's pay. And art is absolutely not like that.
Obviously, you're happier to work as an artist, right?
Yeah, it feels like that's my life purpose. I mean, training, I like it because it's like helping people. Making art, people are sometimes grateful as well, but it's more abstract. But I do also sometimes get messages from like random people in whatever part of the world who are just like, oh, I'm so inspired by this, or like I'm, like happy about things that I made that I don't know who they are and where they are, and that's good.
Your work satisfies others' mind or
something like that.
Yeah. Before you came to China, you've been in Germany, right?
Yeah, I was living in Berlin for
a long
12
time.
years.
Yeah, as an artist, obviously you choose to stay in China. Why?
Okay, so I moved to Berlin when I was 20, and I was going to art school there, and I had what we could call like the typical artist life there. Not a lot of money, a lot of fun, going out a lot, party a lot, cool friends. Maybe it's like a metaphor of like working on Wall Street for a banker, like living in Berlin for an artist. It's a concentration of the place. It's like an efficient place to be based for that kind of work. But after those years of living there, first of all, I want to see other parts of the world, and second of all, I was interested in making a kind of art which I think China is really suited for, working through factories, bespoke industrial production techniques, right?
So it's more efficient.
It's just more possible. I think a lot of those things aren't even really available in Germany in a way. Like the 3D printing, for example, in China is like
cheap and quick.
And also like advanced. Maybe there's like super niche things that are only in America or whatever, in some special place. But for the most part, if it's like industrially feasible, they're gonna have a whole factory with like 50 of those machines. And like my friends in America, for the most part, they buy their own 3D printers. They don't have services like that, or at least they're not cost effective.
Right.
So that's why I stay. The factory is just there. That's a good and a bad thing. I can go to a factory and say, I want something, but if I don't know exactly what I want, it's not user-friendly. I think China is a little bit like a Linux operating system or something. If you don't specify, you get something back where you're like, oh, well, I had no idea that was even an option. Like, wow, that's really not what I wanted.
And because of the languages, right?
I don't think it's even the language. It's just a different way of thinking about things.
Yes.
Whereas like in Germany, you can kind of give a napkin sketch to a steel worker guy and he will sort it out. Like here, if you give a napkin sketch, you get like a napkin sculpture.
Yeah, right. You first came to China. What's the most impressive thing you feel?
China is really different than America and Europe. The technology, like the phone technology, like ordering things, like paying for things, Shenfeng, like SF, these kind of services, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Also the kind of like fluidity of those things. Local delivery guy for your house area, right? And you can get him on WeChat, and then he's like coming to your place and he throw a package, he's like, oh, by the way, you have to pay 5 RMB, and you're like, oh, I'm not home, can you just like throw it in the window? This is very personal. If you receive a package in Germany, nobody calls you, nobody leaves a notification. You have to look online, you have to find something, they realize they put it in the dentist's office, like 1 kilometer away, way less personal. People have this idea that technology is impersonal, but I think China really has this kind of like personal technology and there's like people behind it. That's cool.
Do you regard yourself as a typical American?
I left America when I was 20,
and
I'm 38 next month. Almost half of my life that I don't live in America, and I would say I'm probably not a typical American yet. I am definitely still American.
Okay. To me, you are not a typical American. Are you used to the living style and food already in China?
The lifestyle of living in Shanghai.
Here?
Yeah. It's like asking somebody how you like living in Manhattan versus like living in America. You know what I mean? Like it's really easy to live in Shanghai. If I was living in like, I don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Jiading.
Those might be a different experience for me.
Right.
I can walk out and have whatever kind of tacos or, coffee. They're not also surprised to see like a foreigner. Still, even near Shanghai, if I go to the factory and I go have some lunch, people are like,
so you need to be more specific.
I visited Shanghai in 2012. I think globalization, global fashion, global like trends are more communicated now. In 2012 when I came, styles were not the same. We were dressing in a way that people didn't know how to read what we wore. Fashion was less in touch with each other. But what I noticed was like, for example, the trees and like the walkability of the neighborhoods. For me, that's like one of the main reasons why I decided that I could live in Shanghai. Downtown Shanghai, Xuhui, whatever, those places, they have a very human-friendly scale, easy to walk around.
Oh, we almost came to Shanghai at the same time. 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah, same year.
Yeah.
Back to your work, okay?
Right.
Now, have you ever held any exhibitions in China?
I made an exhibition at galleries in Shanghai, like Bank Gallery. We did a group show. There's the Xifang Museum from Nanjing. They have a project space in Shanghai on Tongren Road. I have a show up right now, but it's kind of an underground show.
Yeah.
I've also done things at like K11, but in Hong Kong, the UCCA in Beijing.
You got the most impressive one.
I mean, my most impressive exhibitions are definitely outside of China.
So during the 5 years, most of the buyers are Chinese or foreigners?
It's a mix.
50-50?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Most high-profile project that I probably did in the last couple of years is I made a tiger for Balenciaga for the Chinese New Year. And so that's a foreign client. It was a global project, but with China in mind.
Yeah.
But that project went down super well.
Your work is most about sculptures made of different materials. What's the highest price from sales?
Like around 35,000 euros for one sculpture.
200 and
Yuan something. It's not like somebody gives you that much money and you get to keep it. There's a gallery involved, there's production costs involved, there's a split and a split. And at that time,
it's just the price of the sculpture. Yeah. How much does it cost for you to make it?
8,000 euros maybe.
Ah, yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think talking about money on your works is implied or rude or something?
I think here people are really interested in that, and I think it's understandable because they're like, how can you make a living from this thing?
Yeah.
And I think in Europe people would not want to ask you that question, or they wouldn't really dare to. They would ask you why you make it or what's the idea, but they would be like, but how much do you sell and how much does it cost?
Yeah.
I mean, I just finished a work that costs like 60 something, 70,000 euros to make. Absolutely the most expensive thing I've ever made. Don't know how long it will take to sell that because it's not only expensive to make, but it's like big and weird.
We can show you a picture with mask.
Yeah. The plan for that, you know, was to raise the level.
To challenge yourself.
Yeah, but also like to kind of challenge the market. A high ticket item, difficult to own, but it makes you look good.
Okay.
So I made that big sculpture, but I'm not sure how soon it will, you know, it's not really about selling it. If it was, it wouldn't make sense to make it.
You are wearing a t-shirt.
Right, I made this one. I started making clothes probably like 10 years ago or kind of a long time ago if you count it, but I've never really run it as a business. Like 99% of the customers are in Europe and America.
Where do you produce the clothes?
Here.
Here. The shipping fee.
This sounds so bad. To America, it's like 90 RMB.
Yeah, not very expensive.
It's the same price you will pay for shipping in America by itself, like 20 bucks.
Oh, okay.
But I think selling in China, well, it's not like I can open a Taobao store. I don't have the right ID. The competition is very different here.
Yes, very
and like
severe.
the price that I'm selling these t-shirts for, maybe people in China would just be like, no, I'm not gonna pay that for like a t-shirt.
To make a t-shirt like this, I can customize it and the fee would be lower than
Sure. I mean, this is,
store.
you know, like this is, I'm making these also one at a time, so I'm not even getting that crazy of a price, you know what I mean? Like I just get an order, I send it to the guy, he print the shirt, send it to the agent. I really like that China is flexible like that.
So currently you are satisfied with your career going in China?
At the moment also the global economy and the art world economy are not great. I have a lot of things finished that are not necessarily sold. They're not very liquid. But I've also just organically been doing a lot more production stuff for other people. It's cool to be an artist, but also sometimes
unstable incoming.
And investing that much money into a sculpture that is like so hard to sell, and it's just like you have to have a lot of faith. I think it will work, but it's just like also have to eat food and stuff sometimes.
Yes, not sometimes, every day.
Yeah.
So what's your plan for your next step?
I mean, I think it goes in a couple directions. Like the one is keep pushing my own art, organize some exhibitions or like find a gallery in another country. I also make like leather clothes. I have a really nice factory for leather clothes, and I think that can be like a nice small business. You can't make money with art unless you're in the art world. Kind of annoying things that you have to do to kind of like market yourself and engage in that thing and be a part of it and be accepted. People here are practical.
Yeah, yes.
And so like a lot of the questions that you asked me today are practical questions.
Yeah.
But I do think that like the mental space that I
Yes.
have to be able to deal with the ambiguity and insecurity of making art. Also in the West, a lot of people can't handle that. Like if I stop making art tomorrow, no one is going to demand that I continue to make art. I make them happen, and then if I'm lucky and like eventually people say like, oh, I want that. A lot of them might also be like, oh, I don't like it.
Yeah.
A lot of people just can't handle that, and then you're like, and will you sell it? And what happens tomorrow? It took me a long time to be like okay with all of that. You ask me like, are things going? And I'm like, it doesn't really matter if they're going or not going. Like in the end, like I'm not gonna change. This path has to keep going.
What if the worst result is that nobody buys your work? You
Yeah.
don't have any income.
I don't know. I mean, I've also been super broke before. And I moved here, I didn't have a job. I don't even know. It's like a suicidal plan, right? And I was just like, no, this is gonna work.
There's a Chinese saying, 车到山前必有路. When you drive a car to the front of a mountain, there would always be a road for you to drive.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. And you haven't learned a lot Chinese,
My
right?
Chinese is bad. Well, because like WeChat Translate is like so efficient.
Okay.
I can speak a little bit, but it's pretty bad.
So can you speak some?
我是美国人，我住在上海5年，我们说话。
聊天 is better.
Oh, 聊天 like
Yeah, 聊天. Anyway, I think it's very good to meet someone like you to talk about art and artists. I really admire you
thank
that you
you.
can keep doing this. I think it's very admirable. Thank you for having this interview. Could I say good luck?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And good luck to your career.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you as well.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
If you guys are interested, a rare book account here. Bye bye.
See ya.